All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our parent orientation, our family orientation. We are very pleased to have you here with us to start to talk about your third graders transition to Rogers Middle School. They are now 5 days away from being a fourth grader, so that's very exciting, I'm sure, for you, for the children, and of course, for us. So Mrs. Cronin is here with us tonight. She is on and she will help me present tonight. She is one of our counselors here at Rogers. I see some familiar families, so I'm sure some of you recognize it. Formerly, Miss Burt, so that might help you as well. So she'll be presenting with me tonight. I am Michelle Flood, the principal of Rogers School. And as I said, we, along with the entire staff, are really excited to wrap up this very interesting year. But also to start thinking about next year and welcoming your children to our school. I am recording this meeting, so just so you're aware of that, if you don't want your camera on or something like that, this will help us if we have new entrants or people who were not able to make the meeting. I am going to share my screen, and I was just practicing since I'm a little rusty. Since we opened 5 full days, we hardly have Zoom meetings that I have to host. So please bear with me for just a moment as I get our PowerPoint up and running. And see if I can. Okay, let's see. Ms. Schoetfel, you're in my screen. Can you see that okay? Okay, thank you. And I'm going to run it from the beginning. And that should get rid of the view panel from, let's see, maybe. No, let me try the other one. 1 second. I might have to do it from there. From this one. There we go. Okay, so here we are. Tonight, Mrs. Cronin and I are going to present some general information for you, and we wanted to present it from a typical school year. Now that things are starting to open up and seem to be safer, we thought we'd present from a typical year because we certainly hope that's where we'll be. We will make adjustments over the summer as needed so that we're following guidance documents, but we will give you a typical year that we are very hopeful we will have. There's our lovely building. A little bigger than the children are used to, we know, but we will help them get acclimated to the building this summer and of course in September. This is just a shot to give you a little glimpse of what's been going on. Here's a pre-COVID one, but also many shots from this year. You can tell by the masks, of course, with students using their devices, students enjoying reading together, and we've even got a math group here giving you a little glimpse of what school here at Rogers looks like. Tonight, our plan is to, we've already basically done the introductions, myself and Mrs. Cronin, but we will go over a curriculum overview to give you a sense of the content your children will be learning in the different subjects in the focus areas. We'll talk a little bit about a comparison between 3rd and 4th grade. Mrs. Cronin has already started meeting with some of the classes, the 3rd grade classes, and that's what she talks a lot about, so that they don't feel like everything's all new. There's many similarities, but of course, many exciting new opportunities in 4th grade as well. Mrs. Cronin will take over to give you some general information as well as from her lens as a counselor. And then at the end, we do have time for questions. If you have questions as we go, please feel free to put them in the chat. Mrs. Cronin will try to manage the chat a little bit as I'm speaking, and then she'll be able to address anything that's coming in, and then I'll do the same, or we'll go through those questions at the end. Okay. The first thing I really want to highlight, as with any school, the biggest piece is we really want the children to feel welcome in our building and a sense of belonging. So we really work hard from the counselors to myself, to all the teachers, to the staff, to build a sense of community in our school. And we do this all different ways, whether it's in the individual classrooms, it's within the school community, it might be even within clubs. Some ways we try to build that sense of belonging and relationships among students, relationships between students and staff. Both ways we really look at that. And we do it by building community through community circles, you might hear of that term, or morning meetings and morning messages that your kids are involved in. Many of the third grade teachers are doing that. That does continue here in fourth grade and really into fifth and sixth. We have school-wide community circles. That's something we started the year before COVID. And that was a chance for children to come out of their classrooms and meet with fifth graders and sixth graders so that people had a sense of getting to know other people besides the 25 people in their classroom. And also our goal was sixth graders and fifth graders would become leaders. Fourth graders be more comfortable when they see them in the hall. So that's something we hope to do now that we can move around the school a bit again. We do use restorative practices, and the district has shifted. We're learning more and more about that each year. And that's really when things are not going well, how we kind of break that down to look at what's each individual's role in that, where may I have gone wrong, what's a way to repair that, do some problem solving. So we're really working with that, whether you're doing it with teachers, counselors, myself. And really it's just making people aware of their role and other people's perspectives in any kind of situation. We do team building experiences throughout the year. Thanks to Mrs. Cronin, Ms. Ditas plan those for us. And then, of course, always trying to promote and recognize student voice and choice. So they really have ownership over their school. The two pictures we chose here, this bottom one is an example of a group that's in a morning meeting or a circle to start their day. And you can tell everybody's got their eyes on the speaker, looking one way for who's sharing. So that's a example of a circle. This one up here, this is some of our current fourth graders dressed up. I believe that was back on Halloween. Typically, we haven't had that at Rogers, and some children came forward and asked and had some good compelling reasons that we should do that. We let the kids make the poster for it and advertise it. So it was real neat just to let the kids know we listen to you, and when we can change things and it makes sense for our school, we'll do that together. So community is really the heart of what we're trying to do. And then, of course, helping the children learn and grow as students in math, science, social studies. So right now, I'm just going to go over a bit. I won't go too much in depth. Your teachers will do that in the fall at open house, but we like to give you a sense of what will be coming. Obviously, as an English language arts, it's really looking at the whole picture of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And not just any one of those in particular, but they really all go together about communication and expressing your ideas and understanding the ideas of others. Very similar to what they've been doing in third grade. Typically, we say 3 groups here. It's not necessarily, it would really depend on what the learners in the classroom, but throughout the reading workshop, kids would be involved in independent reading. They might do guided reading or mini lesson with the teacher. And then, of course, a heavy emphasis on literature discussions, really trying to help children enjoy reading and build their reading skills. So you'll see down below, we kind of highlighted some of the areas where the teachers will focus with children. The 5 components of literacy, I'm sure you've heard about that in third grade and second grade and first. We still look at all of that and really cater to what children need. So if your child has already mastered phonemic awareness and phonics, the emphasis of their work would be on fluency or vocabulary or comprehension. But if somebody's not quite reading, a fluent reader yet, that will still be their focus. So teachers really get to know the children well, and will group them accordingly and give them that individualized instruction to help them strengthen any areas that need, as well as build skills. We really, at this point, are really looking to build those skills so we can emphasize and focus on comprehension and deepening the thinking there with the critical thinking. And I've already mentioned the independent reading. You can never go wrong independent reading. So if you keep them reading this summer, that's a great goal to get them ready for fourth grade. The writing workshop is again similar to third grade. There is independent writing opportunities. There's guided writing. There's times for sharing. That's author's chair. Some teachers use that term, but it's really the sharing time. We have a heavy emphasis on conferencing with children, giving them feedback. And that feedback, the big piece teachers really work on, it's a hard piece to do, but it's the most critical piece, is give them time to apply that feedback, to make revisions so that they're really applying their learning. They'll do all types of writing throughout fourth grade. Some are research-based, some are fictional, some are persuasive, response to literatures. Teachers are really trying to incorporate the reading and the writing within the science and math. So you'll see that next year with some of the new science units we're doing. I'll explain in just a few minutes. But this year they were presented with a problem in a community, and that came to them in an email. The teachers actually emailed to the children and said, we need help with this problem. And then the children wrote back, after doing their scientific research, their answer to that. So really trying to connect the content areas to make it engaging and really make it purposeful. Math, again, very similar to what you're doing. We do have a spiral curriculum, so some information that they've learned this year will be, again, what they take on next year, and then just build the level of complexity as they go. The key areas are numbers and numeration, operations, algebra, measurement, probability, and data analysis. So those will continue to be focus areas. And really what we highlighted down below is the thinking behind the math, so important. And I know some of our mathematicians want to just put the answer on the paper, and they don't always want to explain how or show a model. So that's something the teachers are always working on, that it's the mathematical thinking. We want to highlight the math practices. This is not talked about as often, but really this is I think the biggest, I shouldn't say the biggest, this is a really important piece that teachers are really thinking about, because this is about the mathematical thinking. So it's not so much about the math problem, but it's how you're going to approach it. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of these practices because these are the thinking skills that kids engage in. And as I move to science and social studies, we'll also highlight the practices, and you'll see commonalities across. So once you are working on making sense of a problem and persevering in math, they're doing that in social studies, or they're doing that in science as well. So it's really the thinking that kids are doing, because that then will transfer to 5th grade and 6th grade and 10th grade if we build them and help them really be strong thinkers. So a couple other ones you'll notice that we're going to pop back up: constructing an argument about their math problem, critiquing the thinking of others. How is my solution compared to another's? Was it similar? Was it different? Modeling with math, that's really showing your thinking. And I'll kind of highlight that as we get to the science and the social studies as well. For social studies, the key units of study in 4th grade using the New York State framework is geography of New York State. They do a focus on the Native American groups and how they impact the environment and how the environment impacted their way of life. The colonial and revolutionary period from a New York lens. So you'll see the thread of New York is 4th grade social studies. Government, the westward movement and industrialization. So that's when they'll talk about the canal and the impact of that as they settled New York State. And then of course, immigration and migration. One highlight, Mrs. Cronin will go over this a little bit, is many of our field trips in 4th grade. It's really a great field trip year. So we really are hoping to get back to that, but many of those tied to the social studies as well as special events. Our students, you may have seen on social media, just celebrated Early Rochester Day, and that links to their colonial and revolutionary period study. So lots of excitement in 4th grade social studies. Those practices I was mentioning before, these are the social studies practices that the state has established. And you'll see again, some comparisons: using evidence, just like in the math, making comparisons. Causation is a big piece. If I do this, this is going to happen. If this event in history happened, what's the next impact? And of course, reasoning. So those are those threads that I was talking about. Science has really undergone a transformation in the last few years. So your students will be, they'll start piloting some new units, and this is our 2nd and 3rd time through with the others. The kids have absolutely loved the new programs that we're doing. So I think you'll hear them come home a lot and talk about this. They're going to talk about energy conversions, Earth's features, waves, energy and information, and then vision and light. So a lot of hands-on learning, but again, it's a lot involving research and thinking like a scientist, finding evidence to draw conclusions and asking questions. And that is what you'll see up here, the science. This is New York State, again, framework. And they talk about those engineering practices. And I know it's very small, so I wrote a couple down. There's one: asking questions, developing and using models is listed here again. Engaging in an argument using evidence is here again. So you really see that thread of working with the kids and getting that brain working and being very thoughtful thinkers as they solve problems. And that's the overview of the content, and I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Cronin. I don't know if there were any questions popping in that you saw that would be about curriculum before we go too far.
No, so far there isn't anything in the chat, so I think we're okay.
Okay, so thank you, parents. We know we're giving you a lot, but we'll get to you. Hopefully this is giving you a nice overview, and then Mrs. Cronin will talk a little bit more about nuts and bolts.
I first just want to say I had the pleasure of meeting with remote classes this morning. So Ms. Battaglia and Mrs. Palumbo's groups, we joined together and I got to talk with those kids this morning. And then I met with Briarwood students and South Lawn students this afternoon. And Monday I will be going over to Brookview. So it's been really great to meet your kiddos and be able to answer their questions face to face. They've had some really great questions. I have to give parents some kudos because I think that this is my first year where I've had so many kids wanting to have ownership in some clubs that we have at Rogers. So that was a question that I think every single group asked, can we create our own clubs or how do we do that? So to me, that just shows an investment in their learning and that they really care about the school community. So I'm excited to have them, and I know Ms. Flood is as well as the fourth grade team. Some things that are going to be very similar, and the kids and I talked about that today, is that they're still going to have their special area classes, but they're going to have those twice out of our 6-day cycle. We're hoping we go back to that 6-day cycle. So PE will be twice, art will be twice, music will be twice, and then they go to library once out of the cycle, and all of those are with their class. So they're not transitioning on their own. They're always going to be going to and from those classrooms, just like this year, or in years past, I should say, with their teacher. So their teacher will drop them off, teacher will pick them up, or the special area teacher will come to the classroom and get them. And then we also have our response to intervention structure, and that's really great because it allows the kids just another way to show their learning, and it allows teachers to really meet kids where they are, and for us to be able to meet every student's needs. And we're hoping that that's going to be on a three times a cycle basis. All right, so field trips. This was also an exciting thing when I was talking to the kids today. Our field trips are great. We will go to Helmer Nature Center again, but we're doing some different things than they have done in the past. So we're never bringing them there and doing the same thing over and over again. And the staff at Helmer Nature Center is great about collaborating with our teachers so that we're also working on things within our curriculum. So they're able to get things in both places. We will also go to the Rochester Museum and Science Center. We do a downtown walking tour of Rochester where we learn about the history of Rochester. That's pretty cool. It's my favorite field trip. And part of that is also visiting the Stone Tolan House. And then we, in June, go on a boat trip down the Erie Canal. And all of those are going to follow something that they're learning within social studies. So we're applying their learning on that field trip. And then we have Early Rochester Day, as Ms. Flood was talking about. Kids can dress up, and the entire day they're participating in activities as if they were living within colonial times in Rochester. And that's always a really fun experience for the kids. Okay, so just some expectations. I mean, these are all things that I'm sure your kids are used to, in the last couple of years, but just some things we're going to emphasize, and we're always trying to help build their independence. So that might look like helping them with their planner use. It might help with helping them try to problem solve on their own before getting help from their teacher. It might be working with them on time management. So there's a lot of things that teachers are going to be doing within their classroom that are going to hit everything that's on this slide. But my role and Ms. Ditas, who is our other counselor, our roles are also supporting kids in these areas. So if a kid is struggling with independence or struggling with organization, that's where we can come in, and we can not only collaborate with the teacher, but we might be collaborating with you and trying to find ways where we can help you guys at home with the independence or the organization, or vice versa at school. And then we try to have that homeschool connection. We're always working on self-discipline. So helping them to recognize what's in their control and helping them to take more ownership of their learning, so that by the time they get to 7th grade, where the rigor might be a little bit more, they're ready for it. It's not overwhelming. So we're kind of just building every single year on their foundational skills related to not only their character, but on just their focus strategies, just on their love of learning. So helping them to just be the most successful that they can. They will have homework. Now that we have our devices, some of that might just be they're going into something on their computers. It might just be doing some reading at home. I would say reading is something that we're going to emphasize a lot. Not necessarily, reading things directly from their teacher, but just some free reading on their own. We really want our kids to love reading, because once they love reading and we help them with those decoding phonics skills, then we can start working on that comprehension. But that's going to be a huge goal. And I know when talking with the 3rd grade teachers today, that's been a huge emphasis in 3rd grade. Miss Blood and I happened to be in Mrs. Stewart's room, and she shared with us that at the beginning of the year, a lot of kids in her classroom did not like reading. They didn't see themselves as readers. And then when she asked that group, who sees themselves as a reader now, who loves reading, every single kid raised their hand. So we're just going to continue that in 4th grade. We're going to continue to help them have that love of reading. And then a big emphasis in September is going to be on digital citizenship, because they're going to have their devices, and they're going to have those all throughout the rest of their school career here in West Irondequoit. We really want to help them understand how to be safe on their devices, how to be responsible with their devices, and how to use those appropriately so that they're a learning tool and not just, something else for them to socialize with or some other way to communicate with other kids at school. So Ms. Didas and I will work together to create some really great lessons on digital citizenship for the kids at the beginning of the school year.
Thanks, Mrs. Cronin. And I wanted to highlight the image that we chose for this page. This really connects wonderfully with that community slide that I shared earlier. This is one of the teachers, and I'm not sure if you can see the writing, but it is Mr. Rogers. Ironically, we have a Mr. Rogers here at Rogers School. We couldn't resist hiring him, of course, not only because of his name, but all his talents. But this is an example of the morning message that he uses, and you'll see, depending on how well you can read it, if you're on a phone or a computer, he talks about what they did yesterday, what they're going to be doing today, and gives them a question to be thinking about that then loops into their morning circle share. So that's just a nice example of the ways the teachers try to build that community, reference them as good morning debaters in this one. So really putting them in the mindset of the task they were doing that day.
So we do have breakfast and lunch options. Right now, as you guys know, the breakfast and the lunch is free. I don't think, Ms. Litt, I don't think we have any word on what that's going to look like next school year, but once we find out, we will make sure that we're communicating that with you guys. Depending on the time of their lunch period also. So if they have our latest lunch, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to have a snack late morning. Again, that'll be communicated with you so that you know to send your kiddo in with a snack. I think one of the biggest differences when I'm talking to the kids is just that we don't have a playground. But one kiddo at Briarwood, he said it great. He said, but you know what? The activities that you just shared with us, those sound just as good, if not better, than playing on the playground. So again, kudos to all of you parents, because we have a great group coming to us they already have a growth mindset and they already have just wonderful positive thinking. And you can tell that they have just been so resilient through this school year that we have had. But we will have kids go outside for recess. We have a lot of different structured, organized games that they can participate in. They might be inside if the weather is not great and we're just doing some quiet games. They might be in a classroom where they can read if they want to. So we really try to give the kids a lot of options so that they have some choice and some ownership in what they're doing during that time, because we also understand that some downtime and time to socialize and get some energy out is really important too during our school day. All right, so this is just a nice chart with some comparisons and all of these things I talk to your kids about when I have been into their classrooms. So the same things, they're still going to be with one teacher for the majority of their day for all the subject areas that Ms. Flood talked about. They will leave their classroom for their specials, but again, they transition with their class and with their teacher. The grading system and the report cards are going to be exactly the same as you guys have now. It's going to be more that standard-based grading system. We will have parent-teacher conference days still. They'll still go on field trips, and we still have a lot of special events for kids to get involved with. The differences are we're 3 schools now coming together. So we have 6 fourth grade classrooms. So the number of total kids in 4th grade obviously increases. Class sizes, I know this year obviously things were very different, but if we were to look back 2 years, class sizes are probably going to be relatively the same as what your kids were used to, depending on the size of their school. But I would say between 22, 25 typically is what our class sizes are. They are going to have the opportunity to learn how to play an instrument, which is really exciting. If they haven't come home yet with some information, that's probably coming in the next few days. So they can learn how to play a band instrument, or they can learn how to play a string instrument. They also have the opportunity to join chorus in the spring. So those musical options start in 4th grade for chorus, band, and orchestra. We have roller skating parties. We have intramurals before school, and then clubs. And like I said earlier, that's a really exciting thing for a lot of these kids. We have snow sports and ice skating club. Both of those do have a small cost to them. And because of that too, like kind of our numbers are limited for that. But there's lots of things for kids to get involved with right after school, right in our building. So we have Builders Club, we have Odyssey of the Mind, we have a culture club. A couple years ago, we had a fishing club. So sometimes those are just dependent on the adults that are willing to run some of those clubs. But sometimes it's the kids that come to us. So culture club, for example, was something that a student came to me and said, I'd really like to have a club where I can share about my culture, and I'd really like to learn about other cultures. And so we started that when she was in 4th grade, and she's now a 6th grader. And we have, we're planning on continuing culture club for many, many years. And I did see in the chat, someone was asking about a late bus. We do not have a late bus. So if kiddos do stay after for clubs, they do have to get picked up. Typically clubs run, usually they're done between 3:45 and 4 o'clock, depending on the club and who's running it.
And another one that came out of student interest also was our drama club a few years ago. Kids went to the music teacher and said, we really would like to give this a try, and they took that on. So we really tried to match what the kids are interested in and an adult who can take that club on. So, and they change each year, but we do have quite a few offerings. You know, there's 10, 15 clubs that we offer throughout the year.
Ms. Flood, I just saw a question come in, and I don't know the answer. In terms of band and orchestra, is there always a cost to that? I know a lot of families will choose to purchase an instrument, but I don't know if that is always the case.
Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you for asking that. So families can purchase one, they can rent one, and there are also some instruments we have here at the school that if that helps a family, it may not be every instrument, but what we would want to do is contact, either let us know, one of us, or when the music flyer comes home, reach out to one of the music teachers and they can let you know which ones that they would have access to. So we do try to support it so that every child has access who is interested in that.
And before I start with the counseling, I just saw one more question. Kind of wondering, with our morning activities, intramurals, band, orchestra, chorus, can they do both of those? And in years past, we have tried really hard to make sure those are all on different letter days so that the kids can participate in as many things as possible. So typically, like intramurals are on one letter day per grade, and chorus will be on a different letter day, band, orchestra on a different letter day. So they should be able to participate in all those morning activities. All right, so as I mentioned, Miss Ditas is our other counselor. She's currently our she's currently our fourth grade counselor. So next year she'll have fifth grade, and she also works at South Lawn a little bit. She and I work very closely together, and it's nice to have that person to collaborate with and to help support lessons and things like that. Our role is to make sure that we are pushing into classrooms as much as we possibly can and teaching some different lessons related to character education, safety, responsibility, those kinds of things. In addition to that, we do offer individual and group counseling. If your kiddos are participating in anything now, I already will be meeting with the current third grade counselors. We have meetings end of this week and into next week, just so we have a nice transition plan for all of your kiddos. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions, and you can always reach out to the classroom teacher also, because that collaboration is oftentimes really important and what helps the kiddos to be successful. Not only do I consult with teachers, but I might also work with some people on the outside. So whether that's outside counselors or just groups that we have in our community that are helpful and provide us with a lot of information, I'll be working with them. And then just as I am now, I'll always be supporting the grade level transition. So right now we're looking at the 3-4, but I'm also currently working on that 6-7 transition. So there's a lot of counselor to counselor, teacher to teacher collaboration that goes on during a transition year. These are some examples of some different lesson topics. This isn't necessarily all of the lessons that I'll teach your kiddos next year. There's some that we always do. We will always have a safety lesson. I know you guys probably every year have gotten the letters home about safety. So we will continue that. We will always have problem solving lessons. We will always have coping strategies lessons. And next year, as I mentioned, we're really going to have a focus on social media awareness and safety. As kids are using technology more and more, as we are using technology more and more within the school, we want to make sure that kiddos, especially at this age, have a really good understanding of safety related to technology and devices, but also they're often better at navigating technology and finding things that we weren't even aware of. So even just helping them to focus on what should I really be doing on my computer? What is the appropriate way to be using my iPad? Or if I'm talking to people on a video game, how can I make sure that I'm keeping myself safe within those conversations? Or how do I communicate in an effective way so it doesn't become a social issue or a problem? But other than that, what I usually do is I work with the classroom teacher and I kind of decide from there, what does each classroom need? So if your kiddo's in a classroom and, as a whole group, they really need to work more on their social thinking, that might be a lesson I do in that class. But if another classroom really needs to work more on independence or on organization or on responsibility, then I'll do a lesson for that group related to that. So we have some set lessons every single year, but I'll also collaborate with teachers and I'll make sure that kids are getting what they need, not just necessarily what kind of fits in. So every month or every other month, I'll be pushing into classrooms and teaching lessons.
And Mrs. Cronin, sorry, I was a little fast on the clicker on that one for you. I apologize for that. I was checking the chat and I did see a question about the time frame, so I'll just address that. We are anticipating going back to our more normal schedule, so which is typically 9 o'clock start till 3:05. I know we've all in the south end here had that 9 to 9:30 stagger time. So we do anticipate a 9 to 3:05. And typically we open our doors at 8:50 to give the children time to come in, use a locker, settle in and get ready for the day. So I anticipate it's going to be more normal, and we'll obviously communicate that during the summer as well. In sports after school, typically the intramurals is are before school. So we don't anticipate any kind of sport unless there's a club, like a running club or something like that. But it would be before school, and intramurals really is a time for the children who like to be more competitive. And because a lot of times during the PE class, it's skill building and practice and reinforcement. But those who like to get into a competitive game of soccer or floor hockey, whatever it might be, it would be the intramurals before school.
Yeah, organized sports in Irondequoit don't start until 7th grade. So at Rogers, it's really more, what they're an extension of what they're doing in PE is what intramurals will be. In terms of, I know we talked a little bit about some of these already. Anything that I didn't talk about, we always will have a yearbook club. So at the end of the school year, kids have the opportunity to purchase a yearbook, but a lot of our kiddos like to get involved with the setup of that, or, what does the cover look like? What pictures should we be adding in? They might even be the camera person, and they'll bring a camera to different things that we're doing throughout the school day to take some pictures. We have a makerspace that our librarian runs along with Mrs. Butler. That's a great opportunity for kids that really like to be crafty and creative. And then I think we already talked about everything else. If you're not familiar with Odyssey of the Mind, it's huge within our district. But that's a really great thing for kids to get involved with, especially kids that love hands-on experiences, or who are really critical thinkers. Love working on teams. So Odyssey of the Mind is a really great thing for kids to get involved in.
And Odyssey of the Mind will typically be beyond the school day, because children will have coaches in the way of parents or community members. So we have Mrs. Schopfel here was a coach this year, and her team did very well in the remote setting. But that's often done either on a weekend or in the evening, where the small group of kids will get together and solve a problem that they're choosing, really. And I did want to point out the makerspace is a nice opportunity for those children who are unable to come before or after school because of transportation or childcare. Makerspace typically happens throughout the school day during lunch and recess periods. So that is a way for children to get involved in some extras during the school day.
So we feel like our parents are another one of the strengths of our school. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate your participation in different things, and we kind of welcome your feedback and your help when it comes to some of the different events at school. In addition to obviously your academic support and your collaboration for your kiddos. We, in terms of our character education program, there's like 3 main things that we really focus on at Rogers. One is our CARE program. That stands for Cooperate, Appreciate, Respect, and Excel. So we focus on those 4 kind of character traits, or we kind of talk to the kids about how can they apply those all throughout their school day. And any adults and even students can give a child a care letter. So if they were showing cooperation, that teacher might give that student a letter C. And then we recognize kids all throughout the school year, each time they're receiving a certain number of care letters. In addition to that, we have a strong focus on kindness. We always participate in the Great Kindness Challenge, or we're doing things within each classroom related to kindness towards ourselves, towards others. And then we also have character goals every single month, and teachers and students have the opportunity to recognize kiddos that are showing that character trait, and they'll receive a certificate. We will have a curriculum night in the fall. That's a great opportunity for you to hear directly from your child's teacher, and to also see some of the different things that we're doing throughout the school year related to character education. We do have the parent-teacher conferences. Is it twice a year, Ms. Flood, that we do those?
Yeah, we do a full day, I believe, in the fall and a half a day in the spring.
Okay. We're anticipating also doing a meet and greet again for 4th grade. That information will get sent out to you guys later in the summer. But again, a chance to meet the teacher, for the kids to be able to come into our building before that first day. We have special events like we talked about with Early Rochester Day and field trips. You guys can get involved with PTSA and the different events. Our parents have been fantastic with helping us with different events at school for all 3 grade levels. So we appreciate your involvement, and we welcome your feedback. We welcome your collaboration. And if at any point you have questions, always reach out to the classroom teacher, but you can always reach out to myself or Ms. Flood too if there's things that you guys would like help problem solving through or just have questions on.
So that pretty much concludes our presentation. As you can see, fourth grade is a loaded year with a lot going on. I happen to have taught it for 19 years, so I have a special place in my heart for fourth grade, and I always will. My heart is in fourth grade. But we think it's a great year, and then we just see so much growth. They come in to this big building, and then by the end, they are ready to take on fifth and sixth grade. So we know it's a little nervous in the beginning, but we will help them. Teachers are prepared to help them adjust and meet new friends and make connections across the three buildings. This is just another example of some pictures from these are this year, it looks like. So somebody's making sense of a math word problem on the left, working it through. The student down on the bottom is working on some phonics and phonemic awareness using some tiles. And then the two up on the right-hand side, it's very hard to see, but they're working together to build a cornhusk doll. We were able to bring the nature center to the students this year, as that is part of our typical visit there. So we have time for questions from parents. So I'm going to stop the screen share, and that way we can see if anybody puts their hand up.
Ms. Flood, there was a question in the chat just on if these slides are going to be available to families after this presentation.
Yes, we are recording it. So what we'll do is use the Blackboard Connect way that you've got the Zoom link, and we will send it out once we transfer it to a video. So thank you for that. All right. Are there any questions? Feel free to raise your hand, and Mrs. Cronin and I will try to navigate. Just going to scan the crowd here for any hand raise, or feel free if you can't find the hand raise. I understand that. You can just unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, if you think of anything, we will certainly answer. We do want to thank you for your time. I thank Mrs. Cronin for visiting our schools starting this week and even into next Monday. She'll be doing some more. And, you know, we want to make the children feel comfortable and, of course, give you a sense of what to look forward to and be prepared for at Rogers. So as Mrs. Cronin said, typically our mailing goes home early August, which will have class assignments and have some information about the meet and greet, if you will, where kids can come into the school. Because we know this is a little unusual. Typically, we bring the children for a short field trip here. So we know it's hard that they haven't had that chance to come here. So we do want to give them that chance.
We had a question about band and orchestra, and the answer is both. So their lessons are going to be during the school day. So when they are, you know, learning how to play the instrument, or when they're learning their music and that kind of thing, that's going to be a lesson that they have during the school day, and that'll rotate so they're not missing the same time frame every single lesson. But when it comes to the group activity, so when they're all getting together, those are going to be before school. And I believe for our fourth graders, that's not going to start until like later in the school year, almost towards the spring, where they'll actually come before school as the whole group. So we want to give them time to learn those instruments first in a smaller group setting before we bring them all together.
Yeah, and for those lessons, they'll typically do them once a cycle. So your child might have a flute lesson on A day. So that's how you'll help them remember when they need to bring their instrument in their book. And those will typically be small groups, anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe even 6 students playing the same instrument would go to a lesson at the same time. And next year it could be some 5th graders and some 4th graders mixing at those lessons, because our current 4th graders didn't really have an opportunity given the circumstance this year. And as Mrs. Cronin said, typically the band and orchestra will get going around December. They'll bring that ensemble together once you have a sense of it. Chorus is the one that will really start in the spring, because we want to just give them a flavor and a taste of that, so they know if they want to make the big commitment to the 5th and 6th grade chorus.
I just saw another question about when do they get to choose their instruments. The groups that I met with today have not done that yet, and the fact that we're having this question makes me think that we haven't gotten there yet. So Ms. Ludd, do you know when our music teachers, like what that process will look like this year? Because I know
I thought they actually did it, but based on what I'm hearing from you, they did not go around to the classrooms. I thought they were going to go around the classrooms to give kids a sense of that. I do not know. I'm sorry. I will have to look into that, and I will contact Mr. Zugelder, is our our instrumental coordinator, so I can ask him that and when he's going to get communication. My guess is a little bit of unsure where things were going to go and how much we could open up. So we will work on getting that communication to you because I am not sure, unfortunately.
Okay.
About
And then
some, oops, sorry.
sorry.
I see that other question. When will they get information? We'll work on the band and whatnot. The other ones that are school related, they'll start to come in the fall. So the ways we communicate about the clubs or the intramurals, we will have them on the announcements. We put things in the newsletters. Teachers recommend them and talk to the kids about them. More information will be at open house or a curriculum night, we call that. That's usually late September, where we'll have some of that information once we get going. And signups, I also want to mention, many times of a club, let's say we have the chess club next year. If your child isn't ready to join it in October because they're still kind of adjusting to school and they kind of are interested in that by December, January, typical clubs you can join as the year goes. So you don't necessarily have to be at the first one or every one. Obviously, like ice skating or snow sports, something that you're going to sign up for and pay and take a bus, that's a little different. But the typical ones within the school, the students can come and go as it works for their schedule. I think we've got most of the questions in the chat. Oh, there's a new one popping in. Formal summer reading project for incoming fourth graders. That's a good question. Typically, we have introduced it here for our fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. And typically it's the summer one that the town offers. So we encourage the children to participate. So there's no set book that they have to read or be prepared to discuss, but we recommend participating in the town program. And that's what we presented to our students over this last week. So I recommend visiting the public library and encouraging the children to read as often as they can. If they want to write a little bit about, that's great. The other thing that can never hurt any child is practicing those multiplication facts and learning those because, math isn't always about the facts, but knowing those, they recognize patterns and can apply it. It makes learning concepts so much easier. So that is a big recommendation I have from all those years of experience. It just makes everything a little bit easier. Laptops, that's a great question. So they're going to be collected. The third graders will be, let's see, you guys, have you been told to take yours home, third grade? I'm not sure. I'm just looking for some parents, or they're getting collected. No, doesn't look like, okay, not sure. Well, once they are here in fourth grade, we are planning to have the computers go back and forth again next year like they are this year. We feel like the teachers and the students are using them so many ways that we would limit what we could do if the children aren't bringing them home. So we do anticipate them being carry home next year, and there will be information about the protection plan that the district offers that typically, if you have older children, the Dake and the high school have used. So 4, 5, 6 next year will be bringing their devices back and forth. There may be a couple times with fourth grade that teachers might say you can leave them here this week, but we will have that practice of carrying them home. And before COVID, we hadn't done that. Oh, thank you. I thought third grade was leaving them over the summer because I remember there was a form that you could sign if you opted to stay in, but I wasn't 100% sure. So thank you. So you guys, your students will take those computers home and the chargers are going to be a big piece. If they can come to school with those charged each day, if you continue to help them with that routine at home, get it charged so it's ready to go in the morning. That's a big help for September. Thank you, Mrs. Beatty, for that. It's hard enough to keep track of 4, 5, 6, let alone what the K3 is doing. So I appreciate that. Anything else from anyone? We've been a very quiet audience. Thank you for your mutes. We hope you found this informative. Mrs. Cronin, as she said, is available. I am certainly available. You can catch us by email, call the school. We both will be working in the summer here and there. So feel free to, call, email, and we will get back to you. And our goal is really to work with you to support your children's transition and then to really have a great career here at Rogers School. All right. You are welcome. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Looks like we got all the questions. I was just scanning those in case there were anyone we needed to write down.
It looks like the only outstanding question is just about band and orchestra.
That's what I was going to, yep, so yeah, I know I had talked to Caitlin about presenting, but I don't know what ended up happening with that, so I'll talk to
Okay.
Steve Zugelder with that. All right. Anybody
Alrighty,
else that's
see
still
you
on have another
tomorrow.
question?
I have a
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
I was actually wondering about drop off, pickup. Is there a designated spot that I'm supposed to do that?
Typically, we use our front loop for the drop off. So there, I don't know
Okay.
if you've ever been to the school.
I have once, but I don't remember what it looks like.
Okay, so there's 3 feeder streets that come down. So typically we recommend that people come down, let me look where I am here, Rawlingson. And then if you come down Rawlingson, it'll feed you into our front loop so the children can get off on the right in a safe way.
Okay.
And then you can kind of continue through the loop, and we have security down there that kind of helps, and a crossing guard.
Okay.
And then pickup is a little trickier, you know, we're the South Lawn Rogers campus with very little parking lot space. So typically the families will either be on Oak Lane, which is the street right in front of us, or any one of those 3 streets that feed in here. Some parents do choose to go on either end, Wimbledon, and I can't think of what is on the next one up here. I get there's like a pathways that kids can go to each of those. So there's really 5 streets that parents will be on.
Okay.
We don't have families come in the loop at the end of the day just because there's so much foot traffic, and we just want to make
Okay.
sure the kids are safe. So it is not easy, I will admit to you, and it's part of the bigger master plan since the day I came here saying we need to continue working on this. So we've had engineers and things looking at it. So I hope for a change, and maybe it'll be within your child's career here.
Okay. So as far as the child, then they have to find me when I pick them up? Like
Yeah,
they have
typically.
to come and look for where I am?
Yes, so typically they will have a
Okay.
spot like my mom's up this street or my dad's down here or grandpa's here. Some parents do come out of the car and walk down and meet the children. So sometimes that's the case in the beginning.
Okay.
It
Just so
seems
that
that
they know.
yes, exactly. Some people pull into the bigger lot where the staff cars are. To me, that's not the safest spot because kids always don't think to look around. You know, they're excited to get in the car, and I worry about
Right.
somebody backing out. So that's not one I usually would recommend.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a great question because it is very different from the neighborhood schools.
Yes. Thanks.
Good question. Have a good night. Thanks for coming
Thanks.
tonight.
You too.
All right. All right. If there's anyone else still there that would like to ask a question, feel free. We are still here. Okay. I think we're all set. All right, Mrs. Cronin, thank you for your help tonight. We will see you
You're welcome.
bright and early.
All right, see you tomorrow.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Enjoy that baby.
I will, thank you.
Night.